Hello, and welcome to Animorphs, that's the name, Book 4, Chapter 2, on no channel at all. I am the channel in the darkness. Yeah, this is actually happening. So, uh, last we left off, Cassie was a squirrel in a barn, and Tobias had just decided to come for a visit. He flies in through a crack in the ceiling of the barn, which they should probably look into. And Cassie is a squirrel, so she's like, shit, Hawk. Um, she does not realize that this is Tobias. At this moment, I also do not realize that this is Tobias because, as mentioned, I have never read. Not never. I haven't read this since I was a while ago. So I don't know who the fuck Tobias is. So Squirrely Brain is running around and is trying to take hold of her Squirrely Brain. And she runs around, she zoom, zoom, zoom. That's what it says. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Um, she's running around and telling us what it's like to run like a squirrel up and down the bars and wooden walls and things. And Tobias lands on a piece of wood in the barn, and she can see him staring at her because she's a squirrel and he's a hawk. And she freezes like a squirrel. And she can't hold like that for too long because she's all full of squirrel energy and shit. And she runs and climbs and describes more running and falling and climbing. And then Tobias sees her and he comes flying towards her, and then poof, there's another dramatic thing going on. There's the movement from somewhere else that is not the hawk running after the squirrel, who is actually Tobias running after Cassie. There's a head looking at her from the door of the barn, and another thing is looking at her as if she's dinner, and it's a fox. And she goes, that is the dude who's been stealing our things. And yeah, that closes the mystery of who has been stealing their shit. So everything goes out of whack. Cassie is beginning to regain control of her squirrely brain and squirrely body, and the tail, of course. And Tobias is zooming down in his birdie-like manner, and everything goes crazy. All the birds, and there's wolves in the other room, and horses, and they're all making a lot of noise, and Tobias is kind of in shock, and he zigzags a bit, and there's a fox running after her as well, and then the fox disappears. And Squirrel Cassie shouts in her head for Tobias to save her. And then the hawk is like, I didn't know it was you, Cassie. I thought this was a random squirrel that I was going to have for dinner. And because they can speak in like brain words. I don't know, forget what that's called. Telepathy, is that it? No idea. Whatever. So Tobias is surprised that it's Cassie, and he was like, I was gonna eat ya. And they have a whole conversation about how he was gonna eat her, if he was thinking about a toast squirrel or a grilled squirrel. And yeah, they're just talking. And I don't know. What's going on? I think I lost my place. Oh, they're still talking about food, squirrel food, the her being squirrel food, and then slowly, Cassie decides to go back to her human body, and oh, before she goes back to her human body, she talks about Tobias, who is permanently a hawk now, apparently. And he's coming to terms with that, and he's like talking like a hawk in his head, and or whatever that. Nah, he's eating and hunting like a hawk, um, and he's getting cool with that. And so Cassie, yes, now we are back to her, going back to her normal self. And then she, as all teenage girls, says, "I don't know what normal is. I am just sort of average height, whatever average is. And I am not too skinny and not too fat. I'm pretty athletic." She has short hair because she doesn't like to take care of it because she's like, the cool kid who's no time for that shit. And she's not very elegant, and she describes herself, what she looks like, quite a bit more because being a teenager is fucking awesome. And what else? Tobias, with his hawk ears, is hearing something, and someone's coming, and it's Cassie's father. And Tobias is like, "You still have a tail, bitch." And it's too late because the door opens and Cassie's father comes in, and she like tries to hide her tail behind her back, and her dad is like, "Cass, what you doing here?" Um, and he says, "Go to sleep. You're like 11 or 12. What you doing up at this time? Go to sleep." And yeah, he tells her to turn around because he thought he saw a tail. Very, I'm wondering if there's some sort of foreshadowing about this tail. They keep mentioning the tail. Anyway, she's about to turn around to show her dad that there's no tail there, and then she feels the rest of the tail being sucked back into her body. And when her dad goes, he's like, "Haha, no tail." And then he leaves and goes to sleep. And she is like, "I should have stayed in bed. It doesn't matter that I have weird dreams. I should have stayed in bed." And Tobias is like, "Weird dreams? What kind of dreams?" And she says, "I don't know. I got weird dreams about the ocean and stuff." And he's like, "Ah, the ocean. And a voice that calls to you from the deep." And Cassie, though it was warm in the barn, feels a chill. Okay, that was chapter 2. Not much happened. We had some squirrels and some hawks, and they chased each other, and then the squirrel became a child. And we're setting up groundwork for something to do with the ocean, which is something that's supposed to happen soon, I guess, because I read on a bit just to know what the fuck I was doing. Yeah, there was no Hebrew in this one. Translations are pretty shitty, so I don't know how much I'm enjoying reading it in Hebrew and then sort of translating it back into English. It's a bit weird. So I apologize if you were expecting to hear Hebrew. I could do one chapter in Hebrew. And yeah, if you want me to continue to do this or do anything else, I am actually, this is fun. I like talking to my computer alone in a room and then putting it online. That's awesome. So yeah, see y'all later. Bye.